Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to swap out that silver air chamber that sits in the lower half of your lower receiver of your First Strike T15, or in this case, your Tiberius Arms T15. Alright, quickly, tooling wise, what are you going to need? You're going to need a small enough Allen key that will fit into this small little hole to push down and hold that spring-loaded silver pin so you can take out your upper manifold. I myself am using a 564 Allen key. You will definitely need a 332 Allen key, a 316 Allen key, and you're going to need some oil for some O-rings, okay? Or at least there's a potential of it, so have it handy. All right. Now, I know I've done a video showing the removal of this silver air chamber already, but that video only applies for Gen 3 and newer T15s. The Gen 1 and 2 T15s have a different air pathway set up in the lower half of the marker. So it actually involves having a slightly different part, which you'll see soon enough. Anyways, figured I'd do another video just to help you guys out in case you have an older generation T15. So let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove this upper receiver because we don't need it for this particular job, and it kind of gets in the way. All right, so first thing we're going to do, flip it over, and as always, put it into semi, pull that trigger, make sure your marker is decocked because you don't want to open this while it's cocked because then it makes things messy. All right, grab your Allen key, go to your receiver cross pins, push them through and open up your marker. All right, take this guy off, we'll set it aside. Like I said, we don't need them. And then next up, we are going to grab that 316 Allen key, and in the bottom of the grip, there is a small screw. Well, actually, not really a small screw, it's a pretty big screw. You don't need to remove it. And just loosen it up. 2 rotations should be more than enough. The idea is to just loosen the grip enough so that you can pull it down to relieve some tension on that spring that pushes up on the pawl that keeps your selector switch in place, okay? So once that's done, we're going to flip this guy back over. We're going to set our selector switch to about 10 o'clock, all right? And we're going to take our finger and from underneath, push up to take out that selector switch, all right? Next, we're going to take out the trigger assembly. So again, I'm going to grab our Allen key, and just as always, as you're pushing from left to right to remove those cross pins. All right, just for an interest's sake, I guess, I will show you these cross pins because they are slightly different from the older ones or newer ones. These older ones, they use a little C-clamp. Hopefully you guys maybe not see that. The newer styles have little ball detents in them. I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I prefer the ball detents. They tend to be more easily put into the marker and removed from the marker, as opposed to these guys can get to be a little cumbersome and sometimes just a real pain. Anyways, to continue, let's remove that trigger assembly and we'll set it aside. Okay, next up, we are going to remove the upper manifold, and that's where you're going to need that smaller sized Allen key. What is that, a 564 Allen key again? Place it into the hole with the spring-loaded silver pin, push down and hold, and while you're pushing down and holding, you will be lifting up on the upper manifold with your other 2 fingers, like so. All right, place your upper manifold aside, and we'll go into this view, and we're going to need that 332 Allen key because we're going to remove these 2 screws. Now again, these screws are a little bit different from the newer version T15s. Not only are these ones shorter and black, but they're shorter and black. All right. Yeah. Get the other one out. And lastly, again, don't forget this top plate for your valve pin is spring-loaded, so put a finger or 2 on top of it just to keep it in place so bits don't go flying. Got to remove this 1 cross pin. All right, set this guy aside over there, keep your finger on it, and remove that top plate carefully, just so things don't go flying again. All right, remove that guy, there's your valve pin, and there goes your valve pin spring. Set that guy aside. And now we're basically at the last, or second last step. The only thing left holding in this silver air chamber is this 1 screw. It's not like the newer T15s where you have a little pipe that you have to be able to slide back up and you have to remove your ASA. This isn't involved in this particular generation T15. So all you have to do is remove this 1 screw or unscrew it. And what I like to do is just remove it all in 1 clump if possible. Yeah, hang on, I'll use my Allen key. There you go. Well, maybe not. There you go. Now, again, the newer Gen T15s the back end of the silver air chamber has like a big flare to it where the black pipe sits into, that goes through your ASA. That's not needed or not even existent on this older generation T15. Now, again, I can't reiterate enough or say it enough or emphasize it enough. If you are replacing this O-ring down here, this guy down here, there you go. All right, if you are replacing it, be really careful, really diligent with whatever pick or whatever tool you're using to remove that O-ring, that you do not damage that inner aluminum circle or that inner aluminum circle on the inside part of the O-ring. If you do crack it, break it, snap it off, even take off a little bit, there's a really good chance that your lower receiver is going to forever leak in this lower area. So be really, really careful when you're doing that, okay? Or swapping out that O-ring. I don't need to. I'm leaving it alone. I'm not going to jinx it. Okay, to reassemble, grab your silver air chamber with the screw already in the screw hole. Okay, you're going to go down, give it a nice little snug tight. Grab that spring that likes to fly away. Place that into the air chamber itself. Grab your valve pin, and actually, before I do that, because I'm all about the maintenance, I am going to give it a quick drop of oil. Place that in. Going to do the same thing for the silver seat ring, just to have a quick look at it, make sure there's no debris or grub on it, and I still have oil on my fingers, so I will oil the O-ring at the same time and place it back on top of or into the top plate. All right, put the valve pin in the center and make it just all fit as I push down, just like that. Okay, next we're going to grab that cross pin. We're going to stick this guy back in, hopefully. Again, like I said before, these guys can be a little bit cumbersome. You may need to grab an Allen key just to push that guy through, just like that, okay? Now, since we're here, the egg-shaped O-ring can use a little bit of oil. So, you know me, I'm all about that preventative maintenance and cleaning as you go and yada yada. So give that guy a little bit of oil, moisten that O-ring up nicely. All right, next up, I'm gonna grab those two black screws. Again, I know I said this before, when you put these two screws in and you start torquing them down, don't over torque them. Basically put them in, make them snug, okay? Just like that, give it a quarter turn, call it a day. They don't need to be much tighter, okay? If by some fluke you do wind up stripping the threads on the inside part of the lower receiver, you may have a saving grace. You'll have to source out some longer, same threaded screws. There should be some threads a little bit further down in the pocket for a longer screw to grab onto and bite into, thus saving yourself of having to try to source out a lower receiver, especially these old generation ones. Good luck. But yeah, that's basically about it. All right, gonna put back in our upper manifold. Slide the valve pin through the hole. Push down on that silver spring-loaded pin. Push down on the upper manifold until it locks into place. All right, next, trigger assembly. Slide this guy back in. Again, right to left. For me, it's just a little small mini C-clamp, but same concept as the ones that have the ball bearings in them. All right. Get this guy lined up and push through, just like that. All right, almost done. Get that selector switch, place it back in. If you can, try to do it back at 10 o'clock. Flip it over, grab your Allen key, and put the Allen key in the small little detent or dent in the center of the selector switch as you push up from underneath to get that guy to click back in. All right. Next, second last step, we will open up that grip and again tighten down the screw that's inside. Snug, quarter turn, and you're done. All right, last step, just for good graces, put together the upper with it again, and we're done. Hopefully that was clear enough for you guys. Hopefully it helped you out in some shape or form. As always, if you have any problems, questions, or concerns, post up a question, PM me a question, and I'll help out as best as I can. All right, guys, cheers.